I'm a ghost, and can I just say that I freaking love tacos?
Hey friends, welcome back to another reaction video. I'm your host, Ghostslovetacos. Today we're checking out another recommendation. This one's called KGB Defector, Yuri Bezmenov's Warning to America. So I thought this would be a little interesting to check out as it was recommended to me. And if you've been around my channel long enough, you know I'm pro-America. I love my country. I believe whatever country you're from, you should love your country. But I'm a big supporter of my country. Obviously, you know, every country's got some history, some blood on it. We don't need to get into all that. But with that being said, let's just hop right into it.
Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably.
I just wanted to say, guys, I know the quality looks really bad. I can't control it. Unfortunately, the video, it looks like it's maxed at 480p. But yeah, back into it.
That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
Before we get fully into this, whether you're American or not, I want to hear your opinions on what you think is happening to America right now. Do you think the country is going in a positive direction, or do you think it's going downhill? And in regards to who's controlling our country, who do you think is controlling it? Do you think it's America still? Or do you think maybe there's some KGB or some insiders who are slowly changing things from inside, and it's slowly changing our country? I'd love to know your guys' opinions and your thoughts. You know, they're definitely appreciated and respected. Please comment them below. I will totally check them out.
It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid of society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
So basically he's saying it takes 15 minutes to, or 15 years, 15 to 20 years to brainwash a society, which I wonder how they came up with those numbers. I only imagine they've probably done it before. Obviously, it may have happened in America at one point. It may have happened in, you know, all these other different countries around the world, but that's pretty specific.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place and who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country.
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply...
Yeah, so what he's saying, you know, you can't basically talk about talk out against the government, right? So maybe in the future, it's more public that you can't do it. Maybe, you know, you'll be condemned publicly. So you're made an example of, right? Obviously, I imagine that's probably the case in Russia. To all my Russian friends, obviously, I don't know what's going on over there. I can only see whatever's put out, you know, maybe some propaganda or whatever else. But that's to be my assumption that maybe you can't speak out against the government because it could be very bad for you. But yeah, back into it.
Squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be the greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore.
So he's essentially saying that they've been working on America since what?
The 1980s?
Do you guys honestly feel that the country as a whole has been demoralized since then? People who have been around, that's been living, or maybe born in the 60s, born in the 50s, 40s, do you think that the country was at such a high point that it's just been demoralized ever since the 90s? It's just been going downhill, downhill, downhill? I'm actually very interested in your perspective, what your thoughts are. Please comment below and let me know.
A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it.
Well, when he says that, I actually believe that maybe he is right a little bit, guys. I got to be honest. I've had documental proof over all kinds of stuff. I can't specify over which stuff because it'll get me maybe a strike on YouTube. But I provided documents prior from government websites, and I still received a strike as inaccurate information. So whenever I showed it to friends, or obviously some friends were like, "Wow, that's crazy," but then some friends were like, "That's not true. That's not real." And I'm like, "But it's right here on the government website. That's not real." Maybe he is right. I've 100% experienced this firsthand, and I know you guys probably have if you're very open-minded and you're into doing your own research as opposed to just believing everything everybody tells you.
Until he's going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When the military boot crashes, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy.
Right, so 15, 20 years, you figure the kids are now 15, 20, 22 years old. They're legal to vote. They can start changing laws. They can start making trends popular, etc. So he's right, 15 to 20 years.
And patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems.
It's funny, economy, defense systems, and whatever else. But so he's brought up a good point. What is happening to our country right now? Like, it seems like we're on a downhill spiral. We're at, I believe, the biggest debt we've ever been in. The debt is actually climbing way higher than it has been in recent years. I think in the last 1 to 2 years, trillions multiplied us being in debt. Obviously, you guys have all seen the inflation. You know, prices are freaking skyrocketing. The price of gas skyrocketed. There's a lot to be said about that. But there's also a lot of people that are, in my opinion, controlling a lot of that stuff. Like, I believe Warren Buffett had, from what I read in an article, I believe Warren Buffett owns a railroad system, and he has a huge stake in electric vehicles. So again, that's what I read. And he was, for whatever reason, ordering the people below him for these past several months that they're not allowed to transport as much fuel as they were transporting, which of course would have caused the prices to skyrocket, which would have caused everything else to skyrocket. But again, there's no telling nowadays, right?
And you can see quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth.
You know, isn't this crazy to think about everything he's saying, guys? You got to think about this. I believe this is from 1986. So there's got to be some truth to it, right? Because a lot of the stuff he's saying from 1986 is true right now. Obviously, just like in this video, there's going to be a lot of you out there that are hearing stuff that he's saying, so you know it must be true, but then you're like, nah, it's not true. It couldn't be true. That's just life.
Destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins, never mind. He will create false illusions that the situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control.
Yeah, right now, I think, my opinion, our country right now is disgustingly out of control. Everything is completely out of control. The numbers for this country are out of control. Everything's bad. I still love my country. I'll always love my country, but what's happening right now, it's bad.
Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. The United States is in the state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system. And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system, however ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system, or the world communist conspiracy. Whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot.
You know, it's funny, he keeps mentioning communists, and whether you believe America should be a communist country or not, if you really read on communism and you look at America right now, they're trying to turn it into a communist country. And if you look at, I believe, Cuba, pretty much every country that's fallen under a communist regime has failed. Yeah, it's all sunshine and rainbows at first, but eventually the money starts going into everybody's pockets. And when I say everybody's pockets, I mean politician pockets. And they're already doing it. I'm sure we all know that. They're more than likely all already doing it. But when it comes to communism, they're going to be doing it at a much higher rate. They're going to do it at such a high rate that we're going to suffer for it.
If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay, so what do we do? What is your recommendation?
It's the last country of freedom, guys. Will Americans wake up anytime soon? I don't think so. And that's not me saying to all Americans, you know. I like to consider myself woken up for the most part because I do my own research. I take everything with a grain of salt, and I'm very open-minded. But a mass majority of the people I've talked to, I hold my tongue because I can't be honest with them and I can't give them my honest opinion because they're not interested. You know, follow the crowd.
To the American people.
Well, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, of course, there must be a very strong national effort to educate people in the spirit of real patriotism, number one. Number two, to explain them the real danger of socialist, communist, whatever, welfare state, big brother government.
See, and I completely agree with that. Americans do need to be re-educated on communism and socialism. You know, it all looks like sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. You know, I believe it was down in Venezuela that they were suffering. You know, this was, I think, last year, maybe a year and a half ago. Maybe it's still going on. But they're under, I think it's a socialist government. It might even be a communist government. I'm not 100% sure on that. But they were suffering so bad. Toilet paper rolls were going for like $50 a roll. A thing of coffee was like $800. Can you imagine living like that? Yeah, like I said, it's all sunshine and rainbows at first. Eventually the corruption will come, and it'll come real big.
If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives. The second thing, the moment at least part of the United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not talking about sending letters, signing petitions, and all this beautiful, noble activity.
I also wanted to mention, guys, that I was actually reading an article maybe a few months back, and I remember reading, this was from politicians and these big corporations, and they were saying stuff like, Americans should not be allowed to own property. And that should scare you. You know, if we're in a communist country, a socialist country, where the government owns everything and you are just entitled to live there if you pay your money, that's a problem. Imagine having all this money, but you're not allowed to own anything. You're not allowed to own property. It's not your property. It's the government's property. That's scary.
I'm talking about forcing United States government to stop aiding communism. Because there is no other problem more burning and urgent than to stop the Soviet military-industrial complex from destroying whatever is left of the free world. And it is very easy to do. No credits, no technology, no money, no political or diplomatic recognition, and of course no such idiocy as grain deals to USSR. The Soviet people, 270 millions of Soviets, will be eternally thankful to you if you stop aiding a bunch of murderers who sit now in Kremlin and whom President Reagan respectfully calls government. They do not govern anything, least of all such complexity as the Soviet economy. So basic, two very simple, maybe two simplistic answers or solutions, but nevertheless they are the only solutions. Educate yourself, understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war. And you have precious little time to save yourself.
You know, my personal opinion, guys, is I can't even take politicians seriously anymore. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi, right? Some of these politicians are so old they shouldn't be making rules for this next generation. That's just a fact. But yeah, back into it.
You don't have much time, especially if you are talking about young generation. There's not much time left for convulsions to the beautiful disco music. Very soon it will go, just overnight. If we are talking about capitalists or wealthy businessmen, I think they are selling the rope on which they will hang very soon. If they don't stop, if they cannot curb their unsettled desire for profit, and if they keep on trading with the monster of the Soviet communism, they are going to hang very soon. And they will pray to be killed, but unfortunately they will be sent to Alaska probably to manage industry of slaves. It's simplistic. I know it sounds unpleasant. I know Americans don't like to listen to things which are unpleasant.
I gotta ask, whatever happened to Yuri Bezmenov? Did he pass away from old age, or did somebody take him out? You know what I mean.
But I have defected not to tell you the stories about such idiocies as microfilm, James Bond type espionage. This is garbage. You don't need any espionage anymore. I have come to talk about survival. It's a question of survival of this system. You may ask me, what is it in it for me? Survival, obviously. Because unlike, as I said, I am now in your boat. If we sing together, we'll sing beautifully together. There is no other place on this planet to defect to.
All right, guys, so that was KGB defector Yuri Bezmenov's warning to America. That actually made me think a lot, as you guys imagine. You know, I'm sure you're watching this in your house or wherever you're watching it, and you were probably thinking a lot about what he was saying too. A lot of the stuff he was saying is pretty fact. It's pretty true for today in America, and it's pretty sad. This is from 1986, so the accuracy is kind of scary. But, you know, what can we do? You know, I always say that I want to do something, but what can I do? People, and of course, there's always that smart person who responds, well, you could write a letter, and I'm like, what is that going to really do? Nothing. Sad reality. All we can hope for in this future, as he said, the 15 to 20 years conditioning, all we can hope for is we condition a generation of patriots who actually love their country, and they're not wimps. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate you for checking out this video. If you liked my reaction, please feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that silly bell notification. That helps me tell you when I've got new videos up. And you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.